Welcome back. So on this one, a user called Watcher asked me to have a look at a video called Near-Death Experiences and Memories of Past Lives. I'm going to blur the name of the channel because it's not a particularly nice name from what I can see. However, the video will be linked in the description of this video, of course, as normal. So go and have a look for yourself and let me know your thoughts as well in the comments or on the Discord or wherever you happen to be. So I don't know anything about this channel or this Armin, who is apparently hosting it, so I don't know what his thoughts are, but this video seems to be about near-death experiences and memories of past lives. So let's see what his thoughts are.
Mahmoud is saying, hi Armin, did you come across the methodical analysis of thousands of near-death experience and memories from past life done by researchers at the University of Virginia? The researchers probed into many incidents to remove cultural bias, etc. Also, they investigated past life stories children told and found evidence. Here's a link to the summary video presentation. What are your thoughts?
When it says they found evidence of stories that children told, these are effectively past life memories where a child would say, I was this person in past lives. Some of them aren't particularly interesting. The ones that are those where many of the facts that the children say that are obscure facts have been verified to be true, including, you know, names, professions, places that they lived at, including places that are so obscure on the map that you would never find them unless you happen to live there, you know, tiny villages and things like that. There are a few of them all around the world, not just as many people think in India and places that have a preconceived belief of reincarnation, but also in the United States as well. There are many, including Marty Martin is a very interesting one, the Hollywood extra, so that's a very good one to look into as well.
Okay, the video was 1 hour, so I haven't watched it yet. I might spend some time responding to it on the next month's Q&A. So I saved it to watch that, but I think, like, I mean, I could already my existing bias would be to say that is complete nonsense. I mean, it's impossible. Like, it is impossible.
Oh dear.
Right? There.
Immediately using the use of that word impossible and the claim that it's impossible, it goes against the nature of science to say that nothing is impossible and that everything is on a scale of, you know, how likely is it to happen. Now, if you were to say it's incredibly unlikely, that's more of a reasonable statement to say. However, to me, it would also not be reasonable given the amount of evidence that is now available to show that these phenomena do happen and that they're not materially explicable, physically explicable as of yet.
Where would you store the information? When your brain goes mush, okay, when your brain goes, like, turns into fucking dirt, okay, there is no unit. You can't hold on to information.
This is taking the assumption that the brain is the storer of memory and information, which it very well may be. However, there's no mechanism as to how that would be the case, and there is data such as verified past life memories and veridical perception in near-death experiences, as well as many other phenomena that suggest that it may not be, and indeed it likely is not, because these phenomena do exist and aren't explicable as of yet. There are many attempts to explain them in physical terms, but none have satisfied all the cases and all the aspects of all the cases. So whether it be impossible in this gentleman's point of view or not doesn't really matter if it's been demonstrated to take place. It's a white crow instance, so anyone can say all crows are black until you find one white crow. It only takes one white crow to dispel the claim that all crows are black. So it only takes really one phenomena that goes against the idea that the brain creates consciousness and stores memory or information to suggest that it may not. And there are now far more than one phenomena that does that, and does that consistently, and has been researched and verified.
From one life to another. Okay, what is this? Near-death experiences and memories. Okay, so near-death experiences already, we have many studies that show that they're completely natural, and just seeing a tunnel, you know, with the light.
When I say yes, it's completely natural. It is completely natural. It's a part of nature, but doesn't necessarily imply that it's physical in nature.
at the end of it,
Light at the
or
end of
other
the tunnel.
things have been completely explained.
In physical terms, no, they have not.
And I'm not going to go over the details right here because, first of all, I don't remember them. I went through them a long time ago.
Not familiar with the up-to-date research. In terms of the light at the end of the tunnel, there have been many attempts to explain it. Susan Blackmore, for instance, came up with the explanation that as the oxygen is lost from these cells in the eye, the eye cells are, I believe this is what she said, but this is effectively the idea that the eye cells die from the outside in and create kind of a tunnel vision effect, which would be fine, except it's not tunnel vision that's being described in many near-death experiences who include a tunnel, or which include a tunnel, because what they're describing is a three-dimensional tunnel effect with a bright light at the end, which does not contain kind of the properties of physical light. It doesn't hurt the eyes, and it also contains, it's also very emotionally charged, so it apparently radiates this sense of love beyond anything we can experience on Earth. It seems to kind of have a personality of its own. Effectively, it has a sense of home to it. It's not what you consider just a light at the end of the tunnel, so that wouldn't work if we try to explain it as tunnel vision. Phenomenologically very different.
And second of all, the information already exists. Near-death experiences are completely scientific, have been completely scientifically explained. Okay,
They have not.
they are not anything about heaven or an afterlife or anything. Okay?
Definite claims which are not supported. However, the evidence does suggest, I mean, he's right when he says that it's not necessarily, I mean, well, he's not right to say that it's not. He'd be better to say that it's it doesn't necessarily entail an afterlife or a heaven. I agree with that. However, it does seem to suggest that consciousness can and does continue after the death of the physical brain, or at least after the inaction, when the brain becomes inactive, as is shown via EEG readings or during burst suppression and things like that, where the brain shouldn't create consciousness, shouldn't be able to generate consciousness physically, but does. And cases who are able to retrieve veridical information in a non-physical way that they should not have physically been possible, that should not have physically been possible for them to retrieve, whether it be an event that took place far removed from their physical body, say in many rooms across or many miles across, which has happened as well, or throughout time. You know, some people have been able to experience verified information of something that was to happen or has happened in the past that they didn't know about. That has happened as well. So all of this, of course, is physically not possible, but does occur, and does seem to occur with validation to it. Sounds nonsense. If it sounds nonsense, read the data from not folk like this, but read the data from folks who have actually done the research themselves for many, many years in the fields. Read their papers, compare it, peer review it yourself, and see what you think. I mean, these papers have been largely peer reviewed. Ignore the ones that haven't; they're not very valid. But those that have, in respected journals by respected scientists, they're the people to read, not folks on the internet who are giving opinions.
There are just some things in
and
your
that includes me. Don't take what I say as true, whether you agree with me or not. Look at the studies I recommend, or at least search for some of the studies that I mentioned to look at, and find out from these people yourself, the people that actually do the research.
brain that happens in response to some chemical reactions near death that makes you see, some lights or feel like your body is being lifted or something like that. Okay, so that
makes sense if that was all that there was to it and it was completely subjective. However, we have the veridical experience, the veridical perception aspect, which shouldn't happen but does. Many explanations have been brought up, including, as Armin says, the explanation that it's a variety of brain chemistry that's taking place that's causing you to perceive yourself being out of body, as well as blood gases explanations, too much CO2 not enough, oxygen not enough, CO2 too much oxygen, things like that, all of which have been shown to be relevant to some cases, but certainly not relevant to them as a totality. Especially once you have veridical perception, all these explanations don't work, because you shouldn't be able to see through walls, you shouldn't be able to see into time, into different time periods, you shouldn't be able to perceive something miles and miles away from where you actually are that turn out to be accurate, and you shouldn't be able to receive information from people who are dead, such as there's a gun hidden behind my wardrobe, that's one I heard, which then they go back and find there is a gun hidden behind their wardrobe exactly as described that they never knew existed. That aspect of things cannot be described, cannot be explained by brain chemistry, blood gases, or tunnel vision.
There's that, okay? Memories from the past life, that is absolutely...
And I'll just go back a bit, and I will add an important book to read on that kind of subject of veridical perception in near-death experiences is The Self Does Not Die by Titus Rivers, Annie Dervin, bless her heart, who's passed away now, and Rudolf Smits. 100+ cases in the English version of third-party verified cases of near-death experience with veridical perception.
There's that, okay? Memories from the past life, that is absolutely bullshit, okay? There is no way. Where would you store the information, okay?
Don't know, but it happens. And various case studies have been done to show that it happens and that it should not happen in the physical terms, and that there's no physical evidence or no physical explanation to support it, which draws these researchers themselves to the conclusion that something else is going on. Not saying it's religious, not saying it's God. We're saying it's a part of nature that is as of yet undiscovered, as the globe shape of the Earth was for many, many years, and the fact that the Earth rotates around the Sun was for many years. It's a part of nature that's as of yet undiscovered, but it does seem to exist.
First of all, memories from a past life. So we're saying like what? Abrahamic religions are wrong, and we're talking about reincarnation. So Hinduism and Buddhism got it right.
Well, if Abrahamic religions say that reincarnation and past life memories are impossible, then yes, that would be incorrect given the information that we've got. Coming to the conclusion, if you were to come to the conclusion that it's suggestive of past lives, then yes. However, none of these phenomena are indicative of one religion over another, or of any particular faith over another. It's science, it's the discovery of reality as it is and the reality of nature as it is. Whether that be a physical nature, we know that the materialist philosophy that everything is material works very, very well for understanding how we can interact with the world, how we can use the world, and how the world kind of develops over time in the physical sense. However, when it comes to consciousness, when it comes to veridical perception in near-death experiences, and when it comes to mind and spiritual experiences, it doesn't explain them, and it has tried, but it doesn't work. So we are suggesting now that there's a part of our nature as human beings, and indeed possibly, and it's evidenced, the animal kingdom as well, that is not physical in nature and may allow for consciousness to exist after the brain has died, or maybe even before the brain has materialized, in the case of past life memories and things like that. It doesn't indicate that any religion is correct or wrong. It's just observing nature as it happens.
Right? Based on this study that you're saying, right? I mean, think about the likelihood of this study being correct.
The likelihood of this study being correct based on what? On the data that's been received and peer-reviewed and corroborated and repeated, or based on kind of our predetermined idea of what must or must not be true? One of those would garner better results than the other.
Think about the likelihood of this study being correct. I have to look at what you're sending me because it was too long for me to... You send it to me today. You send this to me today. Wait.
By the way, that video is the 50 years of research from the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies with Jim Tucker, Ed Kelly, Bruce Grayson, and I can't remember the lady, but it's worth having a look at because that is, of course, work from a university, not from a YouTube video.
12 hours ago, so I haven't had time to watch a 1 hour video before I go live for this Q&A, right? But memory means you need information to be stored up somewhere. Okay, where would the information be stored when somebody dies?
Don't know, but it seems to be somewhere, and it seems to be outside of the brain given the data and the information that we have and the case studies that the evidence has come from.
It's It's basically suggesting this. It's the same suggestion that like throwing a hard drive into, I don't know, lava and having it completely melted and be like, oh, I can restore that information, no problem.
Wouldn't be the same. It would be the same if somebody threw the hard drive, if someone knew what the data was on the hard drive, threw it into lava, and then retrieved the data somehow that they didn't understand how they retrieved it. And then you could say, well, it seems to be that the hard drive information is stored somewhere outside of the hard drive. That would be a comparison. There's no evidence to suggest that that can take place or that that has taken place. However, there is evidence, very good evidence, from various different places, not just near-death experiences or past life memories, but a collection of other phenomenal experiences that suggests that memory is not stored in the brain, but that in the physical sense, in the physical part of life, as human beings and as animals, the brain is necessary to retrieve and access such memories. Again, there has never been any mechanical understanding or no mechanism as to how the physical brain stores memory, if it stores memory, I should say. Only correlations between if we damage this part of the brain, if we cut these circuits between neurons, memory isn't available anymore. Whether that means that the memory is gone because we've destroyed it in the brain, or that the access path to it has been wiped. There's a difference. It's correlational, not necessarily causational. And as I say, the evidence from these case studies and from the research into these phenomena suggests that it's more likely that the memory is stored somewhere, we don't know where, just as we don't know what dark matter is, but we know that it's there, outside of the brain. Oops, wrong button.
Oh, that's the claim here. Okay? If you don't have the neurons, the connectome, the way the neurons were connected to be able to be the zeros and one for the information of a past life, if you get rid of that completely, where did the information, did it go into the ether or somewhere?
Don't know.
How was it stored? Where was it stored?
Don't know.
It's insane. The mere suggestion of this being possible is insane.
To you, because you're not familiar with the full context of the background of research that's been done to suggest why we believe these things. It would seem insane from anybody's perspective. Of course it seems insane when you don't know the full context of the research that's been done.
But yeah, I will look at the video and maybe respond to it later.
Hi, Susanna. Okay, so that was near-death experiences and memories of past lives. Again, I won't repeat the name of the channel, but go and have a look for yourselves. The link is in the description. So what do I think of that? I think it's an opinion which is valid, but only valid when one is unfamiliar with the research involved. I can understand why Arvin? Why he has the opinion he does. He seemed a little bit kind of agitated for some reason about it, but I would suggest he keep himself up to date with the research if he's truly interested in this sort of thing, and to approach it without that bias, or trying to kind of alleviate the effect of that bias as much as possible, because while you approach something with the predetermined belief set in your unconscious or your subconscious that this is already nonsense, we know it's nonsense, we know it can't possibly happen because of the science that we currently know, which science is of course evolutionary, it evolves over time. So what we know now won't be the complete picture to what we know in 100 years. So go at it with that view, you know, that this seems unlikely to me, but it's been reported by a university research team. There's been so much published on it. I'll look at it with an open mind, and although I don't believe it's true, I'll have a look and compare it to some of the studies that suggest the opposite and see what happens. Don't go in it thinking, these guys, despite being very highly accredited university professors and research scientists, they must be absolutely mad or not scientific or pseudoscientists at best, because they believe something that I think is ridiculous and impossible, because I'm not familiar with the research and the full context surrounding it. So thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have any other videos or any articles or anything you'd like me to have a look at and give my thoughts on, link them to me in Discord or the Facebook group, or drop me a message or an email. My email address is plastered all over anything Seeking Eyes, so I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.